You mean over there?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Since I can't see that one. Nice.
I'm going to make it like this.
So, I'm excited for this episode because it's acoustically treated.
Wait, I need to take these off because it's...
You're going to be dingling. Can you, like...
Don't say dingling.
Can you move your microphone around pretty freely? It's a little stiff, but...
I mean, it goes up if I hold it up.
Yeah, don't hold it.
It's right there.
Okay. I feel like the... Dang. Yeah,
I told you I was jangling.
That was loud. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Got rid of it. So... I compile questions.
It's a clipboard.
Yeah.
You didn't line up anything.
This is actually your annual review, not your annular review. That doesn't make sense. That'd be crazy.
Is this my performance review?
No. I figured we'd do a nice little Q&A, though. Keep it light.
Crazy.
Keep it light. Going over, because it's almost, about 6 weeks until my 2 years. Which is exciting.
It is crazy. I think it's like 4 months for 5 for me.
4 months to 5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 4 to 5 months or 4 months until 5?
4 months until 5. So
wow.
September, I guess it's 4 months. 4 or 5 months.
Have y'all ever celebrated
No.
a work anniversary? Is that what your work anniversary? No. You never have?
Nope.
That's sad. It's unfortunate.
I don't even know that it happens when it happens half the time.
Yeah, because you were Jessica was still here when you started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
so
I've
been CMO for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
A little over 3 years.
So it's 2 years under Jessica, or
yeah.
Okay.
And then, a little less than 2 years under Jessica, and then so in a little while, in September, it'll be 5 years total here.
Okay.
If you don't count my internship, then it's 6 years.
Okay, because I always thought that it was 5 years, and like as soon as you started at Z-Beans, that wasn't the internship.
No, I was the director of public relations for a little while.
For like 2 years?
Close to it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I was still the director of public relations when we had that shop in Kentucky.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild times.
Because me and Jessica went up there. That was actually... Oh, it was the same weekend is when we found out that that she had gotten another job somewhere, which is exciting. So.
But did that feel like the end of the world?
I won't say it was the end of the world because, I mean, she had been remote for a while, so I was doing a lot of stuff. There was a lot that I didn't know how to do. That was a little intimidating. Like I had to take over private labels and like all the website stuff and everything. Mm-hmm. And obviously there was a little bit more like responsibility, I guess, put on my shoulders, but... A
little bit more?
Well, because it was still only 2 of us, you know what I mean? So if I was shouldering 50% of the responsibility...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But...
Because, I mean, you were basically the marketing department for 3 years. Nobody else helped. I remember I came in and did like some random videos here and there, like when y'all got coffee shipments. Because backstory is I've known you guys for 7 years. I mean, I've known you for like 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. But I've only started working here in the past couple of years when I got pretty good at what I did.
Yeah, so there's about 1.5 years where it was just me.
Yeah.
And then
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, about 1.5 years where it was just me. And then because like the way that I started with Z-Beans is working with Dr. Crutchfield's class, that marketing research class. And so for at least one school year, I also had a team of students with me because then I was her TA.
Teacher's advisor.
Teacher assistant, yeah.
Oh, teacher assistant. Okay.
And working for Z-Beans. So, we had a bunch of Z-Beans, quote, interns with that class. Yeah. So that kind of helped some stuff.
Well, in that 1.5 years where you didn't have any help, that's like when the company started growing really quick.
Yeah, private labels were really crazy then. A lot of shop changes there, but in terms of net amount of shops in that time, I think we stayed around 5. Mm-hmm. And so obviously now it's 9.
Yeah.
Plus wholesale with a lot of stuff. that year and a half didn't really feel like it was overwhelming or anything.
Really?
Yeah, like now I feel more overwhelmed than I did when I was just by myself.
Is it because in the past 2 years it's grown exponentially compared to that previous 2 years?
It's gotten more real, maybe. That's the best way that I can
More real.
think to describe it. Like we were still in kind of like the trial and error phase in that year and a half. So like
in terms of like
we were doing things that we knew maybe wouldn't work, and then moving on fairly quickly from quote unquote mistakes.
yeah.
But now you can't really do that. Like you kind of have things locked in. Or we'd like to think that we do.
Got your systems in place.
Yeah, like we didn't know that we were going to start doing just hospital shops back then. You know what I mean?
Even 2 years ago? Because I know y'all started like really doing them.
We started locking in on that probably 2 years ago, and then a year ago was really like the big eye openers of like trying to get rid of the brick and mortar ones that we could.
Yeah.
So now it's just Mercer Village that we do there.
It's a fun fact. I think we have maybe 3 or 4 that want to open right now. We just can't keep up with the workload. Is that right? Just roughly?
I don't know if it's necessarily the workload, but like obviously there's like cash flow.
We couldn't do a quality
There's a lot
job.
of things to take into consideration, yeah. With our core team is still 6-7 people, so and when you talk about opening a shop, that's really the 6 or 7 that are focused on it. And then there's still 9 other shops that we have to also, we can't just stop doing things for them.
Yeah, for real.
To get a new one off the ground. We don't have like a dedicated person right now that's just opening shop, so it is a little, you have to be strategic about it.
When did you start talking to Shane about needing help? And what did you think the help was going to look like? Not in terms of like the person, but in terms of like what they would be responsible for.
That's a hard question to answer. I don't know when I would have started talking to him. I probably mentioned it like offhandedly to him a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you would relate to it too, in a sense of like you're overwhelmed, but you don't necessarily realize how overwhelmed you are because you're good at your job. Do you know what I mean?
Like something that would okay, this might be a good way to phrase it. You can tell me if I'm thinking along the right lines. Something that might take me 30 minutes to do, edit a certain video, might take Shane 5 hours to do.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking along the lines of like, I probably would have asked for help at some point, but it would have been to totally take over a whole segment of something. Like, I think whenever I would ask, it'd be like somebody to do social media. Just where I could focus more on other things, but it wasn't necessarily that I felt like these things weren't getting done. Do you know what I mean?
It's just you felt like you had a bunch of balloons up in the air and they were all coming back down, and you were prioritizing which balloons to hit higher up in the air than others. Right.
Like it got to the point where everything was still getting done, but I knew logically that each one of those things could be getting done better if I could focus more on it.
Yeah. Huh. Did you think it would be photo and video mainly?
I didn't even consider video. Because that is something that we weren't doing.
Yeah.
At that time, like we weren't doing any YouTube or, TikTok wasn't really a thing.
You were no fun. I'm just kidding.
TikTok didn't really start taking off until like COVID, a little after COVID, really. So we didn't focus on that either.
It's crazy. That was over 5 years ago.
Yeah. So I didn't even consider video, but like all the social media stuff, like Facebook, Instagram mainly. And at that time, I think we were still posting sometimes on Twitter. That's
wild. Yeah. Have you seen like the recent thing with Wendy's? Like Wendy's.
Yeah, Wendy's very meme worthy.
Yeah.
They're very mean as well.
Yeah. We need to start doing something like that, but I feel like that would
get roasted.
Yeah. That'd be amazing to do
Z-Beans
something like
roasts.
that. I don't have the bandwidth for it right now, but at what point, we've talked about this a fair bit. At what point do you start thinking of a third person?
I don't know. Because, again, it's like, it's hard to recognize the thing that you're lacking in when everything is still getting done.
Mm-hmm.
Like a third party, I feel like would have to look at me and say, this is where you need to improve for me to really be able to lock in on what the third person would need to be.
Yeah. Do you think that'd be full-time or part-time?
I mean, again, that's really, like, both of us know that we're doing the job of, like, at least 8 people.
I wouldn't say of 8 people, but yes, it feels as if we are doing a little bit more than...
Like, technically speaking, anyways, because, like, other companies that I worked at, obviously I worked at, like, I won't call it big corp, but...
Big pharma.
A lot closer to that. And,
yeah.
You know, you break things out a lot more than they necessarily need to be, but as you start growing, they do need to be broken out. And so we're doing the job of 8 people from a technical standpoint, even though we don't have the 8 people workload yet.
Yeah. Because I guess in a...
So that's where it's hard for me to think it through. Like, we could have a social media manager. We could have somebody just on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, other companies have somebody just for TikTok, just for Instagram, just for Facebook. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, like, it's really hard for me to get out of my head, so to speak, and think where that person would be.
Yeah. Or it'd be just an editor, just a videographer, just a photographer, just a, person running around doing, like, content on the phone.
Right.
Stuff like that. Then CMO, then I don't even know. What would I even be titled? Camera boy?
Yeah, you're just going to stay that.
I'm going to stay camera boy?
Yeah.
I might get upgraded at some point or another.
You're the social media manager, though.
Social media manager. That's a good one. That has such a... Because before I started... I almost said before I started Z-Beans. I didn't. Before I started working at Z-Beans, I did a bunch of contracted either video work, photo work, wedding films, which I still do a fair bit of right now. Or, just like monthly retainer kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully I wasn't too loud.
It felt loud.
Yeah. Glad you don't have headphones on. You might have blown out your eardrums. Sorry, people. There's a few words that have sort of a taboo meaning now in terms of job titles. Mm-hmm. So when I see, like, marketing agency... You know what I mean? When it's one person that's a marketing agency. Yeah. That kind of throws up red flags to me.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Social media manager is better, but it's still kind of in that...
If you're contracted, it feels a little...
Feels a little bit safer. Maybe? I don't know. Okay, let me phrase it this way.
Are you saying from the business perspective or from the person, from the person doing its perspective?
Let's give the people some value. You're the CMO of Z-Beans.
Yeah.
You're getting inundated with basically all ideas of marketing-related email, cold outreach stuff. I'm sure Shane gets more, but you get a lot.
Right, yeah.
What separates a good email pitch for a service or a product or something like that as opposed to, like, something that's completely spammy?
Honestly, I'd say the ones that I pay attention to are, like, the local businesses, where it's not necessarily something that's going to benefit us, but it's a part of the community aspect, like it benefits us in a kind of indirect way. Mm-hmm. The bigger companies that reach out to us, like the software companies and, everything that wants to automate all of our marketing and scheduling and SEO and all this, those are things that, like, people look at us, and I'm glad that they think it when they see us, that we're, that we have this massive budget, but those are like $5,000, $10,000 a month things that I just don't even pay attention to.
Yeah, can't do right now.
Discounts, though, like if Sticker Giant sent me a discount code, I'm paying attention to that. Yeah, discount mugs.
Yeah. Because you don't get all the inquiries for people that want to be hired or, like, apply to Z-Beans. It's handled by, like, Max or Kalis or somebody.
There is one email if somebody sends it to that email, it's kind of a generic one, then all of us will get it.
Uh-huh.
And then, typically speaking, just whoever is supposed to handle it responds to that person.
So that's your pitch for people, is to find local businesses and try to really leverage that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you need to like sponsor an event or donate coffee or whatever, those are the ones that I tend to actually pay attention to.
Lean into more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did all that contracted stuff, and that was a lot of work. It's a lot better to go after one or two bigger clients, or just find a job internally with the company rather than try to find 20 or 30 at like $200 or $300 a month. That's just you can't do a good enough job for that person, because that's what I did for a while. I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
These are just Q&A I pulled from either the internet or
from the internet.
Chat helped me out with this. I was going to do a Q&A on our story, but I figured with the short notice of doing this episode, we wouldn't have enough interesting questions. So chat pulled some questions, and then I just pulled some questions. It's going to be fun.
Out of your hat?
Yeah.
Your back pocket?
Yeah. So, what has changed the most in the past 2 years? Marketing and non-marketing related. Because we're just the marketing team. Which one are you going to start with?
Oh, I gotta think them through first. I think on the marketing side is actually a little bit harder to answer. Like, obviously, we've started doing a lot of new things in terms of video content, like behind the brand, the podcast, video content in general.
Yeah.
The website's gotten a huge upgrade over the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, like our brand image has changed quite a bit with you on board in terms of like aesthetic and how everything looks.
I think from a marketing perspective, everything has gotten more personality centered rather than coffee centered.
Right, yeah.
Which the coffee is obviously very important. However, the personality of the brand and the culture of it is still very important too.
Right, yeah.
And so I feel like we've done a lot with the personality and how we want our company to feel to an outside customer. Basically, at every stage of content or medium of content, they have a way to interact with us, which is great, and see that personality. So when they walk into the shops, they could see the TVs that are either running videos or new signage or whatever. Right. Then you've got Instagram, which has a certain feel to it. YouTube has a certain feel to it. Facebook has a certain feel to it. TikTok has a certain... Everything kind of has its own feel to it. And I think we've done a good job of integrating all of them together, if that makes sense. Yeah. So YouTube Shorts link to YouTube, like long-form episodes, which then link to stuff that we're doing on our Instagram, which then link to stuff that we're doing in shops. And so we've kind of created a little bit of a web of stuff. They're not isolated. They don't feel as isolated, at least. Right, yeah. That is a good point, because like when it was just me doing it, I mean, that is something that, like if I needed a social media post, I was just having to make up something and go to the shop and do it. Yeah. Yeah. Like I didn't have time to do any kind of scheduling or anything in depth, really. What do you feel took the biggest back seat? Social media? Or a particular platform on social? Social media, I don't think that's the one that took the back seat, because it really, it can't take a back seat. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like that is your brand image. Yeah. Nowadays, anyways. Biggest back, I think like the overarching strategies probably took the biggest back seat, which is unfortunate. But like, long-term things thinking. Like developing like the loyalty program, like we just started online, fixing the SEO, stuff like that. Like the big picture things are probably what took the back seat, just because the urgency wasn't as high on those things. You can always kick the can down the road with stuff like that. Right. Nobody thinks SEO is urgent. Right, yeah. And it's not
it's customer facing to some extent, but it's not in the way that they know it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like SEO is what helps us get to them, but it's not what they actually see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's very boring to set that up.
Yeah. There's a lot of back end coding, like, but social media, like, you have to have that. That is what everybody sees when they look you up.
Mm-hmm. Non-marketing for me is probably the space.
See, it's hard to think, like, everything with us moves so fast. Like, we do so much every single year that it's hard for me to remember when things happened.
Yeah. So in the past 2 years, we've acquired this space.
Yeah, the space is obviously a
About
huge difference.
30,000 square feet, maybe just shy of that.
Yeah. Dry goods, I mean, went up astronomically.
Yeah. We might have just been starting that when I joined.
Yeah, probably
About
so.
2 years ago. That
Mhm.
sounds about right.
Yeah. And then I honestly think, too, just like us as a team, as individuals, like Kayla's joined the team. Ben came back full time. And all of us have just underwent a lot of personal growth. I feel like, like it's very hard because we've talked about it before, for other businesses who have been in the game for decades to take us seriously. But I feel like we really have figured a lot out.
I think we've started to get some teeth, if you know what I mean. Like we've started to get some fangs in the business.
Like we know what works, we know what doesn't work. And it's gotten to the point where I feel like we know that.
We're getting big enough to where it becomes, I don't want to say it like this way, like it becomes hard to not notice us. But we're getting big to a point where it becomes less about us doing outreach and more about managing what comes to us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think we're still perceived quite a bit as like an underdog in situations, but then people very quickly realize that they've underestimated us.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's changed.
Yeah. We've got a team of people that have specific roles, which is amazing. However, I think where we can be different is that we have urgency that not a lot of companies have in terms of speed of changing direction.
We have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shane is very good about changing direction. I don't want to say very good, like he is very proficient at changing directions.
Pivot. Yeah.
Got to pivot. That's a common phrase around here. Got to pivot. However, that doesn't necessarily equate to the more you pivot, the more you succeed.
No, but you do have to adapt. And I think that's where a lot of businesses fail is, one, they're scared of failing. And two, they don't know how to overcome it when they do.
Yeah.
Like you can't be scared of messing something up or else you're never going to take the next step. And then once you do mess something up, you have to be willing to put in the extra work to fix it again.
Well, I will say this is probably the scary part because we're at about 100 people in the company, but maybe let's call it like, I guess the leadership team is 6, 5?
6, yeah.
6, okay. We're at a big enough scale to where we all have our own autonomy with making decisions, but it's also small enough to where failing or making mistakes in your individual role can lead to some not good outcomes.
Right.
And so you also have to be calculated with it, and you can't make a big enough mistake
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, like, is my job at risk? Not talking from a Z-Beans perspective, just a company our size perspective.
Right, yeah.
Of like, if we mess up, Shane has the unique ability to forgive and move on, and he almost encourages failing to a certain extent, which is awesome. He obviously doesn't want it to fail, but if we're making decisions that align with the company's mission that just so happen to fail, that's a completely different thing. But not a lot of companies have that. It's like if you fail, like then our P&Ls aren't looking good, and you got to go.
Right, and that's where I think, like as a team, we've gotten really good at when those moments do come up. I mean, praise God that they haven't been like massive enough that we just tank the whole thing. I don't think they ever would. Like something outside of our control, I think would have to happen at this point.
Yeah.
But we're all very flexible people, and we're all very, I won't say that we're all very type A, but we're all go-getters, you know?
Yeah.
And so when something does hit the fan, it's like all of us are going to do what we can to make it work again.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, put in the extra hours, put in, you know, the extra effort to turn the ship around, essentially.
Yeah. Off of that, that's probably a good, man, I just
Good
wrote these down.
segue.
A good segue, yeah. I just randomly wrote these down, but it seems to be good. From a marketing perspective, what has been our biggest fail and what has been our biggest win? I'll do that. I'm going to reset this.
Do you want me to reset this one too?
Yeah, that'd be good. What has been our biggest marketing fail and what has been our biggest marketing win?
Do we want to bring out that
Yeah.
trophy?
That's a good one. I don't know. Is that our biggest of all time?
No, it's hard to say in terms of marketing because you can't track, with most of what we do, you can't actually track the ROI on it.
Yeah.
Again, that's one of those thousands of dollars a month software things that we don't have.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to equate what an Instagram post does for driving traffic to a store.
Correct. Yeah. That's a really hard question to answer.
You just go, oh, the shop is up today in terms of sales.
Right.
Oh, the shop's down today in terms of
And
sales.
we also just do so much. Like, I don't know if people even realize when they look at it, like how much goes into everything that we do. Like we're working 40 to 60 hours a week. Like it's not.
Yeah.
And it's full weeks. Like it's not like we're just sitting here staring at each other or something.
Yeah. We're not, I promise you, we're not talking like this just in the office for an hour.
Right.
Or hours at a time. We'll do this and then we'll go back to work. It's crazy that this part of it is work, though. Just talking into a microphone.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer. I mean, obviously, like when we went viral on TikTok, that was a huge success in terms of growing followers. But again, like the ROI, like how are you defining success?
Yeah. So for people that don't know, we had, I mean, it wasn't even like hyper virality. It was just viral enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
We got 1 million.
We got excited.
Yeah, we did. We went from like 200 followers on TikTok, and then we got a video that I thought that was your computer starting up. Dang. I hope that microphone picked it up. We went from like 200 followers on TikTok to, and then we posted a video.
Literally just throwing a latte on the ground.
Yeah, it was the premise of it we got from some other person on Instagram, I think in particular. He was like, oh, it was a beverage company, and they were smashing beverages to get more follows than like any of their curated content or whatever. So we just like randomly smashed a coffee and created a cult following of about 16,000 people. Right. Within like a day or two.
Yeah, that was really crazy.
We've been chasing that high ever since. I'm trying. It's crazy. They like turned on the spigot, gave us a bunch of views, got us hooked, and then turned off the spigot.
Yeah.
It's like, boy.
No, it's really.
Come on, TikTok. If this video goes viral, we'll smash coffee. I don't know. What do we do? If this video goes viral, I'll flip the table in another episode with an unsuspecting guest.
Benjamin.
Yeah. Just flip the table randomly.
That'd be wild.
If this video goes viral,
he'd be the best one to do that too, though, because I feel like you'd have zero reaction. He would just accept it. He'd be kind of confused, but he'd just be like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Guess that's what we're doing. Yeah. It's your show.
No, that's a really hard question.
So that's our biggest win, I think.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think behind the brand has been, it's hard to quantify what that's done, but I think that's been our most consistent.
Well, I think it's something that I feel like taken a lot of pride in and really like actually enjoyed working on is both of the websites now. I mean, the wholesale website didn't even exist.
True.
A year ago.
I didn't even think about that.
So that's exciting. The website today looks totally different than it did when I first started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. think the journey was great too.
The journey was great.
The short film that we did.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody hasn't watched that, we urge everybody who listens to this to go watch it, because you don't have to watch any of our other videos ever again. If you just watch that video, you will know what we're about. And I implore you, if you just watch that video, never watch another thing from Z Beans ever again. Just unsubscribe, just do whatever you want. But if you watch that video,
you'll become a loyalty member.
Yeah. You'll understand what it's about. And that required me going to Ecuador. So
right.
That was wild.
Biggest fail is, I think, even harder to quantify.
Yeah. Because let's be real.
I mean, some things don't work and you just don't do it again, but they're not like huge losses. Like, we keep our
marketing is all
in terms of risk taking, we keep things pretty low.
Yeah, marketing is all failing though.
Yeah.
Like if a video gets under 200 views, is that a fail? Like what is a fail in marketing?
Right. That's what I mean. Like, it's not like we've spent like $1,000 on something and then it just didn't work. Well, okay, maybe those commercials that we did in Warner Robins and Macon, I don't think we got anything out of that.
I don't even really recall those commercials.
That was like one of the first projects that you did. You remember from the mountains of Ecuador?
Yeah, I remember doing that, and then we posted that on social media and it had good traction.
Correct, but they were also running as actual commercials.
Yeah, was that when we had that contract with that that 3-letter company?
It was an expensive contract, yeah.
And we had to get out of that contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do remember that.
For the people listening, we didn't just get out of the contract. We had to let it end, but...
Yeah, well, we got out of it by not renewing it.
All right. So. It was an expensive thing, and I don't think we got anything out of it.
Biggest fail, I think traditional media is just taking a back seat. If anything, we're at the stage now where if something's not a hell yeah, we probably don't need to do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's hard, though, because it's like, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. It's 9 shops, and we're both at the level where we'd love to be focusing on, like, the big picture things, but we're still the only 2 on the team, and 9 shops are all different. You know, they have different target markets. They have too. Some of them have different menus, like different screen capabilities, different signage capabilities, different guidelines, different rules. Mm-hmm. Not from us, but from the hospitals or the locations that they're in.
Yeah.
We have different target markets. Even in the hospital shops, the hospital in Redmond is completely different than Bayonet.
Yeah.
It's completely different than Ocala,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
so,
I know.
So we're still kind of in the weeds there of, like, trying to make sure every single individual shop is successful and trying to make these little pivots when we got a slow hour, All
right, Shane. Slow down there. All right. This will be a fun question. Switch it back up from just talking about random stuff. Unlimited budget, what would you like to implement or create? Assuming you had unlimited budget and a magic wand, wave your hand, something's done that you've been really wanting to do. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be updates on a shop, literally whatever you want.
I'm a big data person. I did this.
That's a good t-shirt, big data person.
That's cheese Yeah, I had this sales call with a guy one time, and there's this software. I can't remember what it's called now. We couldn't afford it. It was like $10,000 a month, $5,000 on the low end, and then you didn't get anything that you actually wanted. But it's a software that essentially, well, it's a group that manages it, but it's a software that shows you, like, foot traffic, interest in any city that you're going to or already in. And so it pulls all of this, it's basically a data miner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you get all the information that you could possibly need for that area to then be able to say, oh, this is what's going to work for this group of people. This is what's going to work for this group of people. Because that right now is what we don't know going into a hospital shop. Like Cody at Ocala is texting me asking for nutritional facts. Because in Ocala, it's, the hospital community is very tight-knit. It's very word of mouth. Like, if one person's on this trend, everybody's on this trend. And so they all want like how many calories and like salt content and everything of all of our sandwiches. And I'm like, I don't have that information, and I've never even been asked for that information.
Mm-hmm.
But Ocala wants it. No other hospital cares. You know, St. Francis is drinking 18 Furzados a day. They don't care.
Yeah.
So if we could have that information, it would be groundbreaking to me from the start. You know, you figure it out over time with each hospital, but to know it up front would be incredible.
Yeah.
And to know it even before you open, to say this hospital actually has 0 foot traffic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To just not even put the time and effort into it at all. We could have avoided a lot of closed shops had we had that information. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So something like that would be, I would love that. But
You're a big data person. I'm a big product development person.
yeah,
That is my thing. I think that might just be because I've been in service-based industry for so long. It's probably like coming on 7 years now, 6 or 7 years just doing service-based. I'm always infatuated with physical products. And I just love the idea of just developing products, launching them, seeing how the market reacts. If I had a magic wand, and I've talked to you about this, I would do 12-ounce canned drinks. Like Z-Beans branded canned drinks. We do like some kind of
like a nitro cold brew or something.
Yeah, like a sick graffiti kind of logo looking thing. You know, just kind of make it look appealing on the shelf. You know, something vibrant, bright, maybe featuring some farmers. Something like that. Maybe put Arturo on the can. You know, something like that.
That picture of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would do something like that. It would either be, you know, like a canned caramel macchiato.
That'd be wild.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if we did those, you don't have to immediately get like 1 million of them. You could do a small run and then just like put them in a fridge at a shop and just see how they move. And so I see it's far enough out of reach because you would have to implement and almost hire new people to take the role of doing that.
Yeah.
But it's also annoying because it's small enough in reach because there's not like an MOQ of 30,000 that you got to make.
Right.
It's like you could get a small little canner and just, you know, get a small run of labels.
Yeah.
Put them in a fridge at a shop that you already have and just see how they move.
Right.
So I would definitely, that would be my thing. I'd do like, you know, a canned caramel macchiato.
That's where it gets hard too. Like having a smaller team is like, we don't have time to dedicate to it. Because obviously, like, and I hate doing it, but you bring up a lot of ideas where I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea, but we just can't do it. Like,
yeah.
And it's not because.
Well, it's not to say you shoot down all my ideas. You usually
Yeah.
agree with me on ideas
Yeah.
that get shot down by operations because that's just not what we're in.
Right. It's just all the research and, you know, the side of it that the consumer doesn't see.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it, especially
Right.
when you have multiple shops. Maybe if you have one shop, it's a different story.
I mean, just to make it shelf stable is like.
Yeah, bro. But they would fly off the shelf, so you wouldn't even need shelf stabilizer. They'd be gone in minutes.
That's crazy.
They'd be gone in minutes. Your favorite drink launch in the past 2 years?
The Breezies, easily.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think it's recency bias either. I think it's just genuinely a fun one
That is a good
that
one.
we've done.
That's our pivot away from coffee-based beverages. Not to, you know, say that we're exclusively doing those as opposed to coffees. We were just offering, we know there is a trend of non-coffee beverages selling in coffee shops. Like lemonade-based kind of deals.
Truly, it might be my favorite too because it's at all of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it got truly rolled out. It wasn't like we had to pivot
Yeah, exactly.
at each shop.
And it's cool to create a drink or anything that then you get to see like, oh, it got bought 50 times today, 100 times today. It's obviously not up to like 100 times a day at this point, but it's like probably like getting to a point
It's
where
probably close.
it's probably close. Now that all the shops are running and 9 shops, 10 a day, that's not like an unreasonable thing.
Yeah, I mean, because when I checked yesterday morning, we had sold over 400 in the 6 days that we'd been open because
Yeah.
we were closed for Easter.
Yeah. And they weren't even like fully launched the first day that we did it because the TVs needed to be refreshed.
Right, yeah.
I won't bring that back up to you though. Mine would be Christmas cake macchiato.
Yeah, St. Francis. Oh, wait, we've sold.
Or Christmas cake latte.
Christmas cake was good.
That
That was Mercer Village only.
Yes, I realized that was Mercer Village only. However, I felt like that was the first time. It's a very close race between the cereal milk macchiatos we did.
The cereal milk was good. Those weren't macchiatos.
Cereal milk lattes, whatever. The names get mixed up. Because that was the first time that I think we went out on a limb, and when to give everybody perspective, you usually have your set SKUs of syrup in a shop. 12 syrups, 16 syrups, 10 syrups, whatever it is.
21.
21 for us.
Yeah.
But other shops are different.
It's aggressive.
Exactly. And when you're coming out with new drinks, it's usually a different mix or variety of those same SKUs of syrups and the same SKUs of sauces. So you got 3 sauces, basically. You've got your white chocolate, caramel, and then chocolate. Then you've got your 21 syrups. So think of how many drinks you can make with that.
A lot.
A lot. Exactly. However, the cereal milk lattes and the Christmas cake lattes was the first time we went out on a limb and made a limited batch syrup to make something completely unique that couldn't be made in the shops that we currently had with the supplies we had.
Right.
So I think there was probably, and you know the numbers more than I do since you are the data person, it felt like there was more buzz around those.
Yeah, because it was more of like especially at Mercer Village, like it's such a trendy kind of thing. You know, like the hospitals are kind of hard because those are people that like have their drink that they want, and that's what they go get. Mercer Village gives us a little bit more freedom.
Mercer Village is the college coffee shop for people that are wondering.
Right, and for people who also don't know, is we make all of our syrups, so we're able to do the limited runs. You know, because like a mom and pop coffee shop that's able to do a specialty drink is probably getting a new syrup in for those things too, but they're not having to distribute them to 9 shops.
Yeah.
Across state lines. When we have 2 or 3 delivery drivers, so
yeah.
So yeah, there is a bit of a virality thing there by making it limited.
Yeah. I felt like they just sold well too because it was, I think you and me, we obviously didn't like make a pact to do this last year, but we were like, the nostalgia thing plays off very well. I found if you've kind of referenced anything nostalgic, especially in the crowd that, you know, the college coffee shop, you get some more interest than the standard whatever. So everybody loves Little Debbie's.
Right.
We obviously didn't use Little Debbie's for a thing because it was just the Christmas cake latte. But we used a yellow cake syrup that we specially formulated. Oops, sorry about that, guys. We specially formulated it, and we made our own like yellow cake syrup. And then people seemed to really like that. And that was good. And I can't wait to... So right now, our plan is to have some sort of showdown in the coming 1 to 2 months. Probably closer to 1 month. What are you feeling with that?
It's hard to say because, I mean, we've talked about it a lot too of like the specialty drinks tend to only work at Mercer Village. Like other people buy them at the other shops, but they just don't have the same takeoff as Mercer Village does, even at downtown being another brick and mortar shop. But with the students being gone over the summer, like I would rather do it sooner than later, but it's hard to say.
Because students leave when? It's April 23rd
in
right
like
now.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stinks. GG's in the chat. So it might be when we get back. But that'll give us more time to formulate. We're going to have, all that to say, we're having a little showdown, a little marketing showdown. We're going to make like a whole little PR thing out of it where it's my drink versus your drink in the shops, head to head.
Well, and it'll likely be just at Mercer Village, but
Yeah. That's kind of, well, that's what Mercer Village is great for too is our testing ground
Mm-hmm.
to launch to other shops.
And it's easy to market there internally.
Yeah.
So that we're not not polluting, but,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
overstepping into the other shop's territory.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because you can't have somebody coming into Mercer Village asking for a buffalo chicken flatbread, and we don't have that.
Yeah.
Only one shop does, so.
Mm-hmm. What would you like, or where would you like Sea Beans to be 3 to 5 years from now? What do you think it would look like? So that can be 2 different ways you can answer it. What do you think it would look like, and where would you like it to be?
I mean, we have like an internal vision for the company is to be the premier hospital kiosk in the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's unrealistic to say in 3 years we'd have another 6 shops at least.
Mm-hmm. 2 a year. 2 a year.
2 a year, yeah. And we could probably do more than that, depending, because there's the whole exponential growth
because it goes
model too.
You plan 2 a year, you open 2, you
and
open 2.
then the next year you maybe
open
can do
3,
4, yeah.
You open 5, you open 11.
Correct.
Yeah, like
And
all of a sudden you open 90 in a year.
Right, and
then
it's
Max
just
is crying
hard
in
to
the
know
corner.
where the hopefully we have more more Maxwells
Yeah.
when we hit that point.
Yeah, sorry, Max. Once every 4 days, we're opening a new
Yeah.
shop. You got to go train.
You're managing 4,000 people. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Somebody
Sorry,
called
Max.
out in Washington. You need to get up there.
Yeah. Yep. Seattle's opening up in 2 days. And then you got to go down to Tampa for another one.
We need you to fly to
And then-
Tacoma.
Yeah. And then we've got one opening in Panama.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic to say at all that we would have like 6 more shops in the next 3 years at least. It's just hard for me to know where that pivot point, that plateau is going to be, where all of a sudden the next jump occurs. We can open 5 a year or something.
Yeah.
That's hard to predict.
Mm-hmm.
And wholesale is kind of, we still have a lot of wholesale partners that we work with. I hope we're able to continue doing dry goods things.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot of economic factors that we depend on in that realm. So that's also really hard to predict.
Yeah. Based off of your talks with everybody else, do you think 2 shops are gonna open this year?
I think technically we opened one this year already.
What was that?
In January, Ocala.
Ocala was in January.
Mm-hmm. I think 2 more is very doable.
You think so?
Yeah.
Just for people listening. 2 more on the horizon, maybe.
Yeah.
It's doable. In talks with a handful of them. So you think about 3 to 5 years, it'll look like the premier hospital kiosk model coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you like it to be 3 to 5 years from now? So like maybe how does that?
I'd like it to be that. I'd love for.
How would you like that to change your day to day in a positive way?
I would love, like, the stuff that I've been working on this week and, like, last week, this quarter's rocks. And obviously nobody's going to know what that means listening to it, but the rocks are, like, our big goals for the
Quarterly
quarter.
Goals, yeah.
Those are really exciting to me. Like, those to me are, like, needle movers for the big picture. Mm-hmm. And I would love to focus on that. Shut up.
A needle mover for the big picture.
That's what it is.
Whoa. Nice.
He chose a good word.
Needle movers for the big picture.
He uses it very often, but it is the correct word.
Yeah. Yeah. If community, transparency, and sustainability catchphrase doesn't hold for a while, needle movers for the big picture.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, I love doing that stuff, though. Like, I mean, I know it makes me want to throw my computer through the wall sometimes doing the coding for the website.
Sometimes you do. We have to dig it out. That's why there's so much burlap on the wall. Yeah. This computer marks.
Yeah. I've never done that. No, but no. But I love working on.
Why do you think your case for your laptop's chipped? No, like
because a ladder fell on it at Warner Robins. I was glad that's all that happened.
Yeah, a lot more could have gone wrong with that. All right, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Also, I looked at my
Yeah.
zip case, and I was like, how does a fabric chip?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
What was I saying? Yeah, no, I like to work on that kind of stuff, like fixing the website, finding ways to grow that aren't all shops related, because, we've talked about it before. I was like, the shops are a tool for marketing. Like, if we were only wholesale, nobody would know that we existed. But to branch out further, you have to have that arm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the what is the word? Like the internet,
branch.
the internet arm.
The internet branch, something like that.
Because, if we're all in hospitals, you don't go to the hospital just because you want to go to the hospital. So, like,
oh boy,
yeah, you don't go to the hospital for the cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, doesn't matter how good the cinnamon rolls are.
Right. So focusing on stuff like that, I would really love to do a lot more of.
Do you think?
Because that's what gets new eyes on you is the internet stuff. It's not.
Yeah. Do you think? Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit, but not maybe in this particular way. The hospital shops, we've obviously talked about a lot. That it's hard to market for a hospital shop. You can. Is the time good
It's
on it?
not. It's going, but it's like 25.
Okay. Yeah. We'll reset those real quick. All right. You back up and
It's a small chair.
Small chair. Small chair.
Little leg room.
Little leg room. Nice. All right.
My boot keeps getting stuck on the bottom of the chair when I stand up.
Don't let that happen. All right.
We're too
Obviously,
late.
we've talked about with the hospital shops, you can't market in the same way that you would brick and mortar because the hospital shops have a lot of regulations. They have operators. And you're obviously not doing like social media marketing for hospitals. Say like, hey, come into like you don't do that. Like
You're not bringing people in.
Yeah, people.
You're
come in.
maintaining the people that you have.
You're maintaining the image that you have. So you can do internal things like signage. You can do everything. Put TVs in there, QR codes, good rewards program, actually good food items, helpful staff. Good coffees. Like that's kind of all the things that you can do marketing wise. So basically with the hospital shops, we want to be the premier with hospital shops. You basically eliminate the need for Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, everything like that. You eliminate where you bring in outside people through those sources. Now, it could be a good tool to get new leads for hospital shops to open.
Right.
It's just great for the overall brand of the company, so I'm not saying we get rid of it. Do you think when we have established enough base of hospital locations, let's call it 15 or 20 different hospital shops, and on whatever timeline that looks like, do you think we get riskier with our social media in terms of like, okay, we're not reliant upon this social media to generate us like our daily revenue at these shops, so we can take more risks? Or do you think we have so many shops at that point in time that it's going to be very imperative to stay consistently on brand?
I think you stay consistent because, again, if you're at the hospital shop, you're not bringing people in. You get a little more brand recognition over time, because everybody goes to the hospital at some point or another.
Yeah. If you don't, you're either savage or you're unbreakable, Iron Man.
At that point, I won't say that there's no need in taking risk, but you become more of a commodity and less of a specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? When you're in the hospital shops, like you're now a necessity versus an outing for the day.
Yeah.
Like the college campus, obviously, it's maybe a little bit different. They're going out because they're like, oh, I want a caramel macchiato. But when you're in the hospital, it's a lot more like, I'm going here because I need to eat.
A lot of people don't understand too, when you're in a hospital, like in a hospital model like we are, it's not like you're competing against another coffee shop in there.
Mm-mm.
It's not like there's a Starbucks.
Yeah, that's what I
and
mean.
then they
You're
open
not.
that.
You're a commodity when you're in the hospital.
So there's maybe there's
There's
always
a little
a cafeteria,
competition, but it's not the same.
There's the cafeteria, which people, as you can imagine, get sick of pretty frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Z-Beans. So you don't.
Right.
So you don't need to take risks of your branding in terms of like you're competing with a Dunkin' Donuts in there.
Right. Yeah, you're not competing against the rest of the world when you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, people are there because they have to be there.
Yeah.
Or either working there, or they're visiting, or they're a patient, you know?
Yeah. Where would I like Z-Beans to be in 3 to 5 years? I think the premier hospital kiosk model is going to be a great model to go off of, because the speed at which we can open those and they generate a lot of revenue for the company. In some cases, if not most cases, more than a brick and mortar would on a day-to-day basis, depending on, certain things. So I think it is a great move for us, and I know the team that is built around opening them will not sleep until they've opened as many as they possibly can.
Right.
And so I know for a fact they will get opened, which is awesome. How does that change our day-to-day? I think it might be nice to have some henchmen at some point along that process.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of talked about that. We don't necessarily know what more on the marketing team would do for us at this moment. I just like the idea that we've done enough marketing at this point in time to where we're kind of like the ball is rolling.
It's more of a system now versus like idea generation for a lot of it.
The ball is rolling. The shops every day are going to get revenue. I don't want to say regardless if we post or not, but like there's definitely more risk taking we can have right in this current moment, because we know everything's rolling, and we stay on top of social media because we want the ball to continue to roll. If we stop posting on social media today, it might take 1 month until revenue slows down at shops. It might take 6 months. It might take a year. We just don't know. So we just keep the ball rolling. We try to build it as big as we can. But in the next 3 to 5 years, the system we'll have in place for content and branding, I think it's just going to feel a lot more like entertainment and more of kind of like a TV program.
Yeah. The marketing side right now, where we have the most growth opportunity, is definitely like e-commerce stuff. Yeah. Because everything that we do online is leading to those sales.
Yeah. So, social media does drive a lot of the e-commerce stuff. But I just
if we had other brick and mortar shops, we could easily take more risks. Yeah. With marketing. Yeah. It's just with the hospitals, I mean, genuinely, because we just don't have the following from a hospital. Like, you don't go to a hospital and visit the little taco shack or something that they have in there and go, hey, I'm going to follow this guy on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah. You're there because you just need to eat.
Yeah, exactly. So it does make it pretty difficult, but I do love the idea of our brand continuing to develop a personality, to maybe even a point in the next 3 to 5 years where we don't do like a full brand refresh, because every year we're always refreshing a little bit. But in 5 years, the brand image, it's almost unrecognizable in a sort of way than what we can picture right now. In 5 years, you're like, whoa, like, didn't expect it to take that turn. And that could be as simple as like we post enough on Instagram and social media where something really catches that we didn't expect to catch, and then we explore that avenue. Right. And then maybe new products develop out of it. Maybe new Instagram collaborations come out of it. Like there's a lot of avenues. I'm excited for one thing this year, and that leads to the next question. And I'll start that off. Most excited for this year, I'm working on a brand ambassador program. It's in the very early stages because it's the very beginning of Q2, and it's my quarterly rock to develop a brand ambassador program. And I'm excited for how that's going to come along, because the brand...
It's going to expand the community aspect of us, for sure.
And that's heavily focused on the Mercer Village location.
Right.
So I think it's going to be much easier to track, because if we get a few brand ambassadors that are consistently, doing stuff and interacting with our brand, helping out with events, posting on their stories, like you get 20 people in a brand ambassador program that go to Mercer, and you tell them once a week to post something on the story, and then, once a month on your feed. Like, you build a big community really quick. Right. And I think you would in turn see like a big jump in Mercer Village revenue. Yeah. From doing something like that.
For sure.
And so,
Because people support their people.
yeah, people support their people, and if that's the spot to hang out on campus, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that, and then I'm probably excited for what we'll do this fall around Black Friday. I feel like we're going to work on ideas for Black Friday sooner and have it planned out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And do something kind of fancy.
I'm genuinely so excited about like the wholesale stuff because we've talked about it a lot, and it's the way that our company is structured. For those of y'all that don't know, is that like everything is internal essentially. So like we have the wholesale side, and then we have the shop side, and everything that goes to the shop side is essentially from the wholesale side. Like we're making everything. We're roasting all the coffee, making all the sandwiches, making all the syrups.
Yeah, everything.
And so we're almost an arm of the shops, like the backbone of the shops. But that's a very cost-driven game to be in on the wholesale side. And, obviously we're selling the stuff to the shops, but, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room there because, we're also managing the cost on the shop side. And so for e-commerce and growing that platform, it's not these huge revenue jumps, but it's something that helps us stay sustainable.
Yeah.
Remain sustainable on that side. And so our rock with we have a revenue goal this quarter for e-commerce. And I would really like to see that grow. I'm really excited. I think we have a lot of opportunities with everything that you're doing with the video content and all the website, the structural changes. I'm really excited for that this year to see how we can grow it, because it's not something that we've really focused a whole lot on from a company level, because it's not like our core revenue stream. It's not like you're talking about selling one bag of coffee to one guy here and then one guy here, one guy there, instead of to a whole corporation, of people that are buying hundreds and thousands of dollars of product worth a month.
Yeah.
That's just really hard to manage. And so growing that side, I think, would be a huge benefit in keeping the wholesale side sustainable in order to remain that backbone for the shops.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to grow. When you get to a point like this too, it's less about, and maybe you can speak a little bit more than I can on it. It's less about if you're going to make it and more about how are you going to make it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big personality thing too. I think that's what all of us kind of have in common. Is like how, like we're like this is gonna happen, but how do we get there?
Exactly. So what changes are going to be made along the way in the next 3 to 5 years? How much will that change the business? What is the structure of everything going to look like? I know this is kind of getting into the weeds of it. We're just a measly marketing team. But just the idea, I do like the idea of us just like putting together more entertaining content and having a little bit more air cover to just keep pushing out, 1 billion YouTube shorts and 1 billion TikToks and doing fun stuff with that and doing the brand ambassador program. There's just a lot of ways we could go about it this year. And yeah, but I feel like we're gonna have a lot of exciting things to work on this year. This year has felt significantly different in terms of kind of the hype around it than it did this time last year. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I do. I think it's because it's like the big picture things. Like we're really locking in on.
Yeah. It feels like this is more of one of those takeoff years.
Yeah.
Than last year. Last year kind of felt like, I don't want to say business as usual, but it kind of felt that way.
It feels less like, I don't want to say scary, but it feels like almost more like faith driven, like how you're saying, like we know we're going to get there, and not even necessarily like whatever relationship you have with God, but like the faith that you even have in your team.
Yeah.
Of like, we know that we're going to get there. I feel like there's a lot less concern now about us actually getting to that point, and it really is just how do we do it versus like we're trying to get ourselves out of this. We're trying to now to get to something.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. Do you have any questions? That's my list. Do you have any questions that you think or that you have heard through the grapevine that you would like to answer? Flip it over. I don't think I've got a pen or anything like that. I really want the canned drinks.
Yeah, no, you're...
I long for it at night.
I
long for it.
Stay up at night trying to think of
I hope
who our canning supplier could be.
Yeah, I'll be CCO, Chief Canning Officer, and Operator. CCOO, Chief Canning Operator Officer. Yeah, I'll do it.
Canning Operations Officer. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
coup.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
No, I mean, I can't think of any questions. I'm a terrible person to ask if you have any questions. There's always something really stupid, like in college and like job interviews and stuff. Do you have any questions for me? And, they always tell you that you're supposed to have questions, and I never do.
I've actually never been in a job interview.
That's true.
I've never been. I guess you could say when I do contracted stuff in my first introduction with a potential client is a job interview, but I've never
It's not like they're asking for your resume there.
Yeah. They're just like, hey, like, tell me about what you got going on, what you can offer.
Right, yeah.
So I've done a bunch of those, but I don't really count those under job interviews.
Yeah, you're not really... There's a lot of competition with some of them. I did a few, like, in college and right out of college, but they're not fun. But I always felt like an idiot because they would always ask you, like, if you have any questions. No. I genuinely don't. Like, I listened to everything that you said. I took it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
you answered every question that I could have asked you.
Yeah. I'm sure some Mercer students will listen to this, and this might be a good short. So thinking of content, big picture. As the CMO of a company that is doing very well right now, there's always room for growth, but it's doing well. There's a lot of people that probably would apply and, down the line have interviews with you. You've interviewed a lot of people. What are some things that stick out in a job interview to you that makes you want to hire a person or not hire a person?
I've talked to Shane a lot about this, but you look at, we're taught in college, especially, like, experience matters and, your education matters, your GPA, like, they're going to look at all these things. I personally, and even in the job interviews that I have done, given and just been the interviewee, I don't really think people care that much about that stuff. And I know that I personally don't. Like, if you have the attitude and the personality of you're going to get something done, that's to me more important than this whatever skill that you have. Sometimes those skills are necessary and might be a disqualifier if somebody doesn't have it, but you're able to learn things. Do you know what I mean?
It seems like it's easier to learn the skill if they have the character traits that you want rather than they have the skill that you want and you've got to teach the character traits.
Correct. Because you can be the best graphic designer, for example, or the best coder. If you don't show up and actually do it, if you tell me they're going to get something done by 3 o'clock today and it's not done at 3 o'clock, I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And to me, that's more important than your ability to do it.
Yeah. Is
your ability to actually get it done.
Yeah.
And your willingness to do so and your willingness to put in the effort to do so.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I've always been curious about the next person up that we would hire. It would have to be very specific to something that we needed. But like you said early on in the video, we feel like we're doing the jobs and keeping all the balloons up in the air right now. So, but I'm sure that will change. I wouldn't be surprised if we started talking about that later this year.
Yeah. It's hard to think about it right now, but yeah.
Yeah. We're on a big kick of posting on YouTube and TikTok Reels, YouTube Shorts and TikTok Reels. And that has been what?
TikTok videos. Instagram Reels.
Yeah. It's been generating a lot of views. I don't know if you've been checking out the views recently, but it's been generating a lot of views. However, at what point will it
the ROI again?
Yeah. When's the ROI, and at what point is there going to be one video that goes crazy, and then we're like, oh boy, we got like more responsibility.
Right. Yeah.
We have a big audience.
Because everything that we do, if it is successful, it then in turn affects operations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So
is...
it's a good thing, but all of a sudden, if you're in a pinch, you're in a pinch.
Yeah, and I understand the hierarchy of how things need to be. It's a very healthy system of checks and balances that we're not just like randomly coming out with stuff. And relatively speaking, against other companies, like we have a lot of movement. Like we're able to come up with, we have a lot of freedom in, you know, what we come out with, how we do it, everything like that. But man, as a marketer, you always want to be able to just have the leash completely off, even though it shouldn't be completely off.
Right.
That's how you get hit in the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What? That's a cheese-it.
Yeah. Like you never want the leash completely off, or else you're gonna get hit in the street. But you're always like, oh, man, I wish I had a little bit more. I wish I had a little bit more.
Yeah, it does get frustrating sometimes, but I mean, it makes sense. It's just, I think the thing that makes it frustrating though is not that like, it's not that we it's frustrating to us because we can see where we could be if it was successful. However, operations is seeing it where we're at if it's not successful. And that's, I think, the problem is like, because we're all like, we're going to make this work, is me and you are like, we're going to make this work and it is going to be successful. And so this is where we're going to be when it is, and it's going to be great, and we're going to be bringing in all this money and everything. But everybody else is like, well, the cost that goes into that if it's not successful. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody's looking at the other side of it, but we're looking at it in different ways.
Yeah. Maybe we just need to put our jobs on the line. Like, listen, guys.
Fire me if it doesn't work.
Yeah. Start coming down with those.
I dare you.
Yeah. Come down with those trump cards. Just
that'd be wild.
Just lay it out there.
Who would
put my paycheck on the line?
Who would take it over? If both of us walked out, who would take it over?
Ooh, if both of us walked out at the same time. I don't know.
Who's next in line? Max likes marketing, but then who takes what Max is doing?
Yeah, it's kind of tight knit. Like you can't really lose any of them. With the six of us, it's like 6 plus 1. Me. I'm probably I don't want to say the most expendable, but like y'all probably get the furthest. If one of us had to quit, y'all probably get the furthest without me. It would increase. The only reason that it wouldn't is because it would increase your workload to a point where you just you gave out.
Yeah. And just shut down.
Yeah. So that would not be good. If you left, I'd be scrambling. Shane would be scrambling.
You know, it was kind of crazy whenever Jessica left. Is one of the hardest things, genuinely, was not because I'm very much the type of person that I just figure things out. Like I'm gonna sit there and just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, do it.
But figuring out the hard drive where everything was, that was horrendous.
Yeah,
that was so. Oh, because I know there was like months after it. I'd text her every now and then and be like, where is this file at? I can't for the life of me find it.
There's a lot of brand assets.
Oh, there's so many. But there's a lot that don't need to exist anymore. So I'm trying to narrow everything down.
You've got 4 to 6 different YouTube templates. You got hundreds of private labels with different SKUs in the private labels. You got all the logos for those private labels. You got 21 different SKUs of syrups. You got, oh my gosh, it's never ending.
There's so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole database.
Yeah. Do you have your hard drive hooked up right now?
I don't.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a nightmare.
Now we're going to go line by line through each folder that we have on our hard drive so you know how much we have.
But we did have like 184 private labels on there, and I think only 80 of them were active still.
Yeah. So we cut that down.
Awful.
We cut that down a fair bit. Nice. Anything else you want to talk about?
Mm-mm.
Wrapping it up. No closing remarks?
We just got a content publishing request.
For what?
Don't know yet.
Like a spam email?
A Redhead Digital Agency. Marjorie Henshaw, outreach manager.
Interesting. All right, guys, we're going to sign off on that note. Maybe we'll talk with Marjorie or not. Maybe that was a good enough email to get noticed.
Yeah, maybe so.
All right. See you guys.
Bye. I cannot reach.